Gents, let's switch gears and focus now on match week 10 of the Premier League season. Let's preview it. One game stands out to me right away, Tottenham Hotspur against Manchester United. I'm going to be lucky enough to be in North London for this game. Really looking forward to this one. Andy, I'm going to come to you straight away because this is a game. Both teams are under pressure a little bit after their defeats last weekend. Man United more so than Tottenham, I think. But it's just a game where pragmatism is going to be the key word for both Nuno Espirito Santo and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And they probably would both take a draw right now if you gave it to them, right?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think they would. I think Spurs would probably be slightly more disappointed being the home side and everything.
Yeah.
I think there's more pressure on Spurs for this one because,
Wow.
I mean, look at where the club is right now, and I'm not just talking about the results that are happening on the field and the way that they'll show up for a couple games, they won't show up for a couple games. It almost feels like this is a crossroads moment for Spurs where if they don't figure something out, and that means managerially, that means what they're doing in the transfer market, that means Harry Kane deciding that he wants to be a fully committed member of the team once again and try to defend set pieces, which he used to be incredibly good at, and now he just lets players jump over him and put the ball into the back of the net. All of these factors, it almost feels like Spurs are in danger of kind of going away. They're not going to get relegated from the Premier League. They're too big. They've got too many resources. But it almost feels like they could just become another one of the middle table teams again, after working so hard for a decade to drag themselves into those top four places and get to a Champions League final and try to compete for trophies. It's been 2 full years now since Mauricio Pochettino was fired. We know the Jose Mourinho tenure was not the best. And so it's been 2.5 years since Spurs have been consistent, since Spurs have been reliable, since Spurs have been entertaining and anything redeeming about them. It's been at least 2 years. And so at what point do the results just kind of happen and nobody notices and Tottenham just kind of exist once again? It almost feels like that's the place. And to be fair, that's the place Manchester United found themselves in for a few years as well, in the wilderness. After Sir Alex Ferguson left, Arsenal have found themselves there after Arsene Wenger left as well. And so maybe this is just part of the cycle of you have whether an iconic or just a really memorable and successful manager, and you move on, there's always going to be a lull afterwards. How can Spurs avoid what has happened at Manchester United, specifically the opponent this weekend, and letting that drag on to 2 managers, 3 managers, 4 managers, and riding the ship? I could see both of these teams coming out in this game and absolutely dominating, or just not showing up at all. So it's going to be a fascinating game. Anytime you get 2 teams that are desperate and need a victory the way that these two do, it's either going to be super defensive or they're going to go all out. No really in between.
Yeah, 2 really Jekyll and Hyde teams, aren't they? And I can see Man United in particular, just especially after the mauling they got at the hands of Liverpool, just sitting back deep, trying to defend, and then playing on the counter because they know, like you said, Andy, that Tottenham need a win as well. So they're at home. Son, Kane, Lucas Moura, they're going to play a lot of their attacking players. It's the only way they can really play at the top end of the pitch under Nuno Espirito Santo and try and counter them as well. So I think they're going to cancel each other out a little bit. But yeah, Harry Kane, like you said, his head seems to be elsewhere at the moment. Maybe on that corner kick, he was thinking about what kind of house he's going to buy in the suburbs of Manchester when he does eventually go to City rather than Mark Mikel Antonio. But that's a discussion for another day. Nick Mendola, Manchester United, going into this game, what's the key area for them? Because Ronaldo will probably start. I think they still created a lot of good chances against Liverpool. They missed some big chances. Ronaldo had a goal just disallowed for being a smidgen offside. So you fancy them to score, right? Always. But it's just about the balance. How defensive are they going to be against Tottenham after that horrific defeat against Liverpool?
Yeah, Harry Maguire is going through probably the worst stretch of his career, at least since he's jumped into the national discussion. He's looked bad. And from time to time, he hasn't been good dealing with crosses in the past, right? Maybe that's been his weakness. He looks all around bad. Going back to that giveaway he had, I can't even remember what game it was because he's had so many, but the one that just outside the 18, who picked it off him?
Leicester?
You'll know. Yeah. This was just that situation. It might have been Iheanacho, but whatever. He looks bad. I think this is a litmus test weekend for a number of teams. And for Solskjaer bouncing back from a big loss, Don't forget, it wasn't that long ago they lost 6-1 to Spurs. So are they going to show what we all think they have? Because they're winless in 4 Premier League games. It's not good. And there is a very muddled middle going on. What is it, 4 teams or 4 teams within one on the same point, and 6 or 7 teams within 1 point of each other? This is a big moment for them. And as they go through this, I think in committing to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer through the international break, Manchester United has essentially committed its entire season's hopes to these next few weeks and to that man. And that pressure is absolutely massive, because right now, if they lose to Chelsea coming up, if they lose to Man City, if they let Tottenham get 4 points ahead of them, they're not catching those teams. They're not catching those teams for a meaningful position on the table. So do I think the pressure is more on Manchester United? Yes, because I kind of expect them to respond. I think what we're getting from Tottenham is Tottenham. And right now is Tottenham right now. And so I don't want to sound insulting, Andy, but we're seeing a team we saw with Manchester United. You don't know what you're going to see.
You really don't. But I just want to say as well, as bad as it's been for Tottenham and Manchester United, going into this weekend, Tottenham sits in 6th place and Man United in 7th.
Yeah.
And West Ham and Brighton are ahead of them in 4th and 5th. And you think that those teams are going to fall off. So there are some other teams that can surge up the table, of course, but I do think we have to maybe take a step back from the hysteria of Tottenham fans and Man United fans on social media and freaking out, because still worst case scenarios for both of those teams. For United, if they finish 4th, that's still a pretty good season, all things considered. That's just average. And for Tottenham, I'd say if you finish in the top 6 every season, most Tottenham fans would be happy with that, and a good cup run or a good run in Europe. So I think we have to maybe just say, as bad as it has been individually in some games, they have shown up in other games. Like we said, they're that Jekyll and Hyde team, right? You never know what you're going to get. Andy, a final point on Tottenham, Man United. What are the key battles here? Is it Kane against Maguire? Is it, Shaw against some of the right-sided players there for Spurs, whoever plays out there? Maybe, I guess, Son would be drifting out to the left, right, against Wan-Bissaka. Yeah. Some big battles individually, and I feel like Tottenham could get hold of midfield in this one.
Yeah, I think it's Harry Maguire and all of the attacker. I think Spurs are going to run a lot of players into his area and try to make him defend the channels first and foremost, not give up any space in behind. We know that's not the best part of his game. He's not the most mobile there at center back. And then I think they're going to look to combine in and around that space just in front of the center backs, and see if they can pull him out of position as well, because he has gone for the bait every time the last couple of weeks, as Nick was kind of alluding to. Every time somebody tries to trap him or present a situation that doesn't look scary, and he takes a step forward, and then suddenly everybody converges, and it's just a disaster for Maguire back there. I think they're going to look to really, try to make him the focal point of their attack, and I think that says a lot about the Spurs attack right now. Probably that they have to focus in that way on one struggling defender to create chances for themselves, because as good as they were for most of that game against West Ham on the weekend defensively, I thought they were in pretty good control. They just had nothing going forward, and so it's probably going to be more of the same against Manchester United this weekend. It's up to Harry Maguire if Spurs can get a goal.
Wow. My word, what a preview. I will be at Tottenham Manchester United, so over on Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com, I'll have live analysis and reaction from the stadium. We'll have team news, how to watch, previews. We'll keep you covered on that massive game. And gents, let's now focus on a game between two teams who are battling Tottenham and Man United, I'd say, to finish 4th or 5th. It's Leicester City against Arsenal. Andy Edwards, you've been watching these two teams closely in recent games. Arsenal are kind of good vibes, right, around them right now, on a good little run. Defensively, they've been getting a bit better. They're the favourites going into this game, I feel like, because Leicester City is, as well as Yuri Tielemans has been playing and the screamers he's been scoring, there's a few gaps defensively that you feel like Saka, Smith Rowe, Aubameyang can really make the most of in this clash.
Yeah, and I think it is those type of players that are really good in space, really good on the counterattack, that I think are going to give Leicester trouble in this game, because one thing they've done a little bit more of this season is they've been a little bit more adventurous defensively, and they press just a little bit more. They get at you a little higher up the field. And in recent years, they sat pretty deep, and they were lethal on the counterattack. But I think as Jamie Vardy is getting on in his career, he's losing a little bit of that pace, the explosiveness, and I think the availability every single game to do those things. And so they have been a little bit more proactive under Brendan Rodgers this season. I think they're better off for it. Obviously, some early season results have gone against them, and they've dropped a few points that you would otherwise expect them to pick up. But if you have to do that in August and September and October to kind of, almost evolve the team into what you want it to become at the end of the season, that's certainly worth doing. And so I look at the recent results for Leicester. They beat Manchester United 4-2, very comfortable in that game, and they beat Brentford on the weekend, which that is a much more impressive victory for anybody who's managed to do that this season than anybody thought it would be. So they're in pretty good form at the moment, and we're starting to finally see Patson Daka a little bit. We talked about him coming into the season, that this could be a guy that comes into the Premier League, takes a little bit of time to settle in, and then starts to set the world on fire. The end product, not quite there yet, but you can see everything that he brings to that team. And there's another dimension that's just not present when it's Jamie Vardy at top. It's not just running in behind. It's not just getting in on crosses. It's hold up play. It's linking. It's passing. There's a lot more, I think, to be unlocked for this Leicester team as the season goes on. And against Arsenal, they've struggled defensively this season. They have conceded a lot of goals. Probably leaning Leicester in this one, I think, if you were forcing me to pick.
Wow. Yeah, I'm going for Arsenal because I think they're on a good run. 8 games unbeaten in all competitions. Ben White going down with injury in midweek in the League Cup game was a bit of a problem for them, obviously. He's been really good. But I just want to say fair play to Mikel Arteta because, like Solskjaer, he was under a lot of pressure early in the season, but he kept the faith. They have a clear plan and a clear philosophy, right? You know how Arsenal are going to play now under Arteta. Hasn't worked for large spells, but when it has, they've got on some good runs. And yeah, I just think fair play to him for sticking to that. And the main thing for Arsenal, of course, is that injuries have been kind to them. Apart from Granit Xhaka being out, had all their big name players in recent weeks and months. And you can see the difference that makes that, and not having the Europa League or Europa Conference League, I think is a huge boost for Arsenal this season. They can work on things on the training ground in midweek. And that's clearly coming to fruition when they play at the weekend. So, yeah, Leicester against Arsenal is going to be a really tight game. 2 teams battling to get into the top 4 and probably will finish in the top 6, you have to say. Nick Mendola, Liverpool against Brighton. Your Seagulls had their wings clipped by Manchester City, but they're still up there in 5th place in the table. Can they go to Liverpool and cause a few problems for Jurgen Klopp's dominant side?
Can they? Yes. Will they? Probably not. I'll tell you why. I look at Brighton the same way I look at Arsenal. If I could shoot words out of my hand, it would be, who have they beaten? And Brighton has beaten Leicester, and that was an impressive win to me, but they drew each other. I'm just not quite sure that they're ready to go to that level again without adding a striker there. And I'm very impressed with Arsenal. I'm very impressed with Brighton. I think Man City is a problem for any team that wants to play the same way as them just because they have better players. And that's not Graham Potter's fault. I signed up for that game saying it's not going to go well because when Brighton can play against a team that doesn't want to play is when they're at their best. And Man City wants to play. Liverpool, same way in a different challenge. So it's not even like you can say, wow, this will feel a lot like what we experienced last week. No, it's the other team that does it in a lethal way and just a bit different. So I still very much like Brighton to be sitting on the outskirts, if not in the top 6 battle by the end of the year. I just don't think they're in any reasonable position for you to say, yeah, they'll handle their business against Man City and Liverpool.
Yeah, not quite there, but they're definitely heading in the right direction and seems like they're going to beat a lot of the teams around them in the table and comfortably be, like you said, in the top 10, which would be a wonderful season for the Seagulls. Newcastle United against Chelsea is a game I got my eye on at St. James's Park. Nick, you're shaking your head there as a Newcastle fan. Yeah, a good point away at Crystal Palace. Didn't play well, but Callum Wilson came up with a piece of individual brilliance to dig them out there. Chelsea have just got this knack now, machine, I feel like, of just grinding out wins and results. Obviously, hammered Norwich and didn't even have Lukaku or Werner fit, which is incredible. The size of their squad. In all competitions, they're just getting wins. They're getting clean sheets now, while Mendy's standing on his head. And yeah, they're top of the Premier League table, but I feel like Thomas Tuchel isn't quite happy with the way they're playing. And that says a lot, right, about how much further they can go, the potential they have to just dominate the Premier League this season. We all thought they'd be right up there with Man City for the title. They are going to be. And I see this going one way. Newcastle, if they go ahead early, can they sit back and defend? Of course they can, but I feel like they're going to have a lot of luck and catch Chelsea on an off day to get anything from that game. And then you do obviously have to question Newcastle's decision to get rid of Steve Bruce and then not have a replacement lined up. They have Graham Jones there as interim basis in charge, but who else is coming in? What's the plan? Before you know it, they could be really cut adrift towards the bottom of the table there. There's games coming thick and fast over the next month now as we head towards the festive period. So yeah, this is a game in previous seasons where you're thinking, oh, Newcastle can grind out a draw here, and they have done okay against Chelsea historically at home, but I just can't see it this weekend. I just cannot see it. Sorry, Nick. Other games to keep an eye on: Watford against Southampton. That's a big one for both of those teams. They both go for it, because I think that's one they'll earmark as we have to win. Claudio Ranieri's side had a big win away at Everton last time out, 5-2. Southampton drew 2-2 against Burnley. Should have won that game, but look a little bit better going forward with Amanda Brower delivering the goals and big moments there. Man City against Crystal Palace. I could easily see Palace maybe nicking a point there. Patrick Vieira's side have been really good, very good on the counter-attack still. They play more possession-based, but they still have a lot of the same qualities under Roy Hodgson, I think, in terms of we are going to hit you on the counter. Edward, Gallagher, obviously Zaha. Those players can still hurt teams away from home, but this is Man City. They seem to be finding a way to get it done. Foden and Grealish just dominating up there at the moment, and we're not even really seeing Kevin De Bruyne that much, so it's pretty crazy. And Norwich against Leeds. Poor Norwich. Let's see if they can rebound. Let's see if they can get a first win of the season. I know we're all rooting for Josh Sargent to get his first Premier League goal as well. And Leeds, I don't know about you guys, I'm slightly worried about them this season. The squad depth, are they going to get dragged into a relegation battle? Are they already in one? Let's wait and see. But so much to look forward to in the Premier League this weekend. Gents, it's been an absolute pleasure, as always, to chat with you on Pro Soccer Talk this week. I want to remind everyone, head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for the latest Premier League news, team news, schedules, how to watch all these great games. Thanks for watching this week. And gents, we'll join everyone next week. Cheers, guys.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern. And for even more content, head over to Peacock, where we've got live games, original series, and a dedicated round-the-clock Premier League channel featuring studio shows, classic matches, and much more.